Howdy, folks. I want to visit with you today on just a few what I would call tidbits as relates to the front end of the compensation plan. It is more powerful, I think, than most of us realize, and I'm thankful for that. Every time we dig into it, we find more stuff, we get more excited, we realize, holy smoke, didn't know that, and then we can move forward with new enthusiasm. Let me share with you just a couple of those today, together with maybe some tricks to help you remember how things operate. The first trick, brought to you by the letter P, is that PV, your personal volume, determines your percentage. That's particularly true in the business development and the team development stage. For example, in business development, your cumulative PV earns you 10 or 15 or 20% based on those people that join you. Now, the cumulative part of that is interesting. That means you can take as long as you want to get there. There's no cutoffs, there's no have to do by X. For example, you could take 10 months and do 100 PV each month to get your 1,000 PV to be maximally qualified for the maximum 20% override. Or, if you're fearful of leaving money on the table based on people joining you and you're not getting maximum override on them, you could do that 1,000 PV today. It's up to you. Either way is fine, but your PV determines your percentage, and that's in the business development side. In the team development side, it also does the same thing. If you do 100 PV, then you earn the 3%. If you do 250 PV, then you earn the 5%. Again, your PV determines the percentage. Now notice a couple of things here, which I would call fundamental principles. The first is that if you do more, you get more. If you do a higher level of cumulative PV, you're going to get a higher percentage paid on those that come in. You do a higher level of PV within the month, 100 or 250, then you get paid a higher percentage on those levels of your growing organization. Do more, get more is a great and fundamental principle. You'll also notice a do X, get Y environment. If you do this, you'll get that. The this is unambiguous, so too is the that. The PV thresholds are there, they're known, they're set. The extra percentages you get because of that are also known and set. Again, your PV determines your percentage in both team and business development. The other little trick is that width determines depth. In your team development, ideally you want to have 5 legs wide, which will access you 5 levels deep. Ideally, because of your PV at 5%. So if you're 3 wide, then you're 3 deep. If you're 5 wide, then you're 5 deep. Width determines depth. So those are 2 little things that I keep in mind in terms of reminding myself. My PV determines my percentage in that front end of the plan, and my width determines my depth. Again, notice those fundamental principles at work in regards to width and depth. The more width I build, better for me, not just now because I can get paid more deeply, but for the future. It sets you up to take advantage of other overrides and other bonuses that are for your own best interest. Notice those fundamental principles at work and learn these little tricks to remind you how things actually operate technically. Your PV determines your percentage in team and business development, and your width determines your depth when it comes to team development.